Welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Pelagic Sailing Club. We have a wonderful speaker this evening. We have Roger Karlebach out of New York coming in to talk about how we spent a number of days, 34, 33, depending upon how you count days and nights in Rhode Island. So he's going to give us a nice overview of his presentation that he did an article for in Points East magazine. We're delighted to be able to bring him in from New York to do this presentation live via Zoom. So with that, I'm going to hand it over now and let Roger take over. Roger.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Chris, and all the Pelagics for letting me talk to you tonight. You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. My passion is cruising, and I get to talk about cruising, and I guess that's a good thing for me. I love doing that. This talk is one of my three favorite parts of a cruise. The best part is the cruising itself. I also like planning cruises, but this is even better than planning cruises, which is remembering them and telling the stories. And so now you guys provided me an audience, and I am very appreciative of it. I've been to Rhode Island before. I was in the Navy for 2 years on USS Hammerberg, the E-1015 in Newport. And I've sailed several times before I started sailing in the late 90s, and I've been into various waters of Rhode Island for maybe 10 times during my cruises. But all my cruises have a mission, a destination, an objective to achieve something. And this one, as have others following that plan or destination, has gotten me in trouble, as you'll hear late in this presentation. But I got out of it, thank God I'm still alive. So I don't thirst to go where no man has gone before, because there's no places left on the earth where no man has gone before. But I like to go to places where I've never been before, new places for me. And in 2019, the mission was to go to every place in Rhode Island that I could get a 43-foot boat with a 5'10" keel into with modest safety. And we were pretty successful. I'll note the spots that we did not go to, and for some the reasons why, and for some the regrets that I have for not getting there. But the misses give us opportunity to come back on a subsequent cruise, like maybe this year. Well, this first slide shows our wake, starting in the southwest in Nappatree Beach, Watch Hill, Rhode Island, and then up into Point Judith Pond, and then up into Narragansett Bay via the Western Passage to Dutch Harbor and Wickford and East Greenwich, and then further all the way up to East Providence and the farthest north, and back down. On the way back down, we stopped at Edgewood Yacht Club on the west side of the river, the Providence River, and then down into Bristol, where we had a day sail with friends from New York who visited, and then up into Kickamuit River, which I didn't know existed, and then to Fall River in the extreme upper right, and then coming down, we stopped in Tiverton, and then someone told me about anchoring behind the Fog Island Peninsula here, halfway down the Saguenay River. We stopped in 3 Mile Beach, on Aquidneck Island, the central island of the lower part of Rhode Island, and then to Newport, and then to Block Island, and then back home. So that's it. 108 nautical miles from Block Island is a logical spot for you if you were coming from the east. It's 101 miles from Boston's waterfront marina, 108 miles from my club in Eastchester Bay, Harlem Yacht Club, Eastchester Bay. You have to worry about the canal. I have to worry about the race, but the race is easier than the canal because it's not as long. And well, let's start with the boat. This is Eileen, 43-foot Saga, built in 1999. We got it and started cruising in the beginning of '06. but I didn't really go long-term cruising until 2010. This photo and the next were taken by a stranger who was kind enough to give them to me off of Key West when we were down there in 14. This one is in the Brador Lakes in Bedeck. It shows my mate and my boat, both named Eileen, at the dock in Bedeck. I couldn't cruise without Eileen. I mean, I can single-handle the boat, but it's no fun. I'm not, people want to be solo navigators. I don't want to be a solo navigator. I'm a social person. I like to have people around. I like friends. And our next slide shows our crew, without whom Eileen would not sail with me. Oops, wrong way. Oop, what did I do? I missed one. Oh, this is up in Maine. It's the clearest view of the side view of Eileen as she goes. The crew. On top of the mast is Alpha Girl, who's been sailing with us since 2007. And on the Dodger beneath is a Witty Boy, who actually has gone to kitty section of Fiddler's Green now, but we've replaced him with another yellow cat, a stray, a mature stray that we rescued. They like the boat better than being stuck in the apartment, and we like to have them along. So here's a list of where we stopped in Rhode Island. These show the 18 ports. They're listed in 2 columns. And there's a little cheat. There's some asterisks by number 3 and 4. Those are places that we did not take Eileen, but having anchored in Point Judith Pond, we took the dinghy. It seemed unsafe to bring the boat down. I didn't know what I was going to find up in Wakefield. Is there a place to anchor? Are the seeming anchor spots filled with moorings? What have you. So we took the dinghy. It's faster anyway. There's 8 letter N's to the right of each column, toward the right of each column. Those are the new ports, the places that I had never sailed into before. And then at the extreme right of each column are numbers representing lay days. If there's no number, that means we came in and went out the same day or the next day. And otherwise, it's we stayed 1 extra day or 2 extra days as indicated. So almost not enough time to explore, except Rhode Island is such a small state geographically. The passages were short, not what we're used to when we go up to Canada. You have a long 40 and 50 mile days to cover. The average of the 18 passages, or actually, 17 or 18, depending how you count them, passages in Rhode Island was only 11.5 nautical miles, and the total distance is only 194 miles. So it made for a lazy man's cruise, and in fact, there were some days it was so short, or the wind was light, and we didn't bother with the sails, we just motored. We have an aversion to docks. There's 3 traditional reasons to prefer an anchor or a mooring, being privacy, ventilation, and cost. And we have a 4th reason, is that our crew tends to jump ship, go onto other people's boats, get lost, and then cause a lot of anxiety in the morning when we're looking for these little rascals. So we actually only went to a dock in one place, and it was, they didn't run away, but it was an unsatisfactory experience, as I will tell you. Those who looked at the chart that was on the first, which was a road map, I drew it on the road map, show that we did not traverse the eastern passage of Narragansett Bay. We went up on the western and came down through the Saguenay. So we've done the eastern passage many times. We did not stay at that yacht club on Jamestown Island, Connecticut, because we've been there several times. We did not stay at the New England Boat Works Marina on the east side of that same passage because it's all docks. So let's begin. Oh, by the way, I hope that we'll have a lot of questions at the end. I think that's when it'll be, unless people tell me they want me to answer questions before then, which adds complication to what I'm trying to do here. So here's the first stop, Nappatree Beach and Watch Hill, Rhode Island, shown in the chart on the left side, in Little Narragansett Bay. This sandy point that runs down from the top left used to be joined with Nappatree Beach until 1938 when the hurricane blew it open. And there's a lot of shallow water here. So the entry is around the top of Sandy Point in the extreme northwest, and then following the pretty clearly marked channel in, and then once you get to the end of it, you can anchor in this large area by Nappatree Beach, the land that sticks out from the right. And then in the corner is the town of Watch Hill with its antique merry-go-round, some stores, some places to go. There's a seawall giving you a little protection there. The only problem coming in, problem going out is if you don't have radar and it's foggy, you should wait till it gets better because these moorings are not that close to each other and it's shallow on either side of the passageway. The problem coming in is the blow up of the northwest corner of Sandy Point, which is shown in the slide on the right-hand side. That little buoy is green 5. So you keep the greens to the left. And when the tide is not full, that foul area between Sandy Point and the buoy looks mighty small. So the sailor is tempted to go on the other side. They must have made a mistake by coloring it green, but it is the right color and you will fit and you can go through and get in. So once you're in, this is from our mooring, 2 views of the town. I had to pay extra for the special effect on the slide to the left, and the one on the right is a little bit more of a close-up. The dinghy ride into town if you want to go there. And then if you look south, that's the, I guess you call it the bay side of Nappatree Beach with little trails. It's like 50 yards wide. You put your dinghy on the beach. I think there is a dinghy on the beach right above the mooring ball. And then there's trails across and you're in the Atlantic Ocean and a beautiful sandy, long sandy beach that you can swim off of or walk along. What else do we have here? This hotel was recently rebuilt. It was, I think they tore the old one down. There was this big Dowager hotel, also in yellow, on the same location, which as you see this one from the sea, you would see that one from the sea. They tore it down and built this more modern looking one, which is called the Ocean House Hotel. And if you don't want to stay on your boat, you can get a room here for a mere $750 a night. Or you could eat there, which is what we did. They have a decent restaurant. There's several places to eat in town. Walking around town, I was struck by this type of architectural detail, which I've never seen anywhere. It may be familiar to you from other locations, but I only see it in Watch Hill. That's the fence between the sidewalk and the yard. Okay, leaving the Watch Hill area, we go east along the coast of Rhode Island to Point Judith, which is shown, well, it's not quite shown on the slide on the left. And there's the harbor of refuge that our government built for us with a break from the east or the west, so you can enter or you can go even through it if you wish, back in the days. And we came in through the west and up through the channel, up to the top near where the white water is, deeper water. And this is a more detailed view of that. The green on the right-hand side, the green line shows the path of Eileen, and the red line shows the path of the dinghy into Wakefield. No one would tell us that there was a place where we could anchor or moor our boat in Wakefield. But we did go by Dink and found a marina who was very friendly, lent us a car so that we can go do some business we had to do. And we went for a walk through town and saw this old these old buildings. Formerly, it was a mill town or a commercial town, and there's remnants of the past of this town, which is kind of a sleepy town these days, I would say. This is back at the mooring, and there's plenty of room in the pond for other boats. Not all of this water is deep enough to anchor for sailboats, but we draw 5, 10, but a lot of it is. The next day, before I come to this slide, we went also by Dinks down to Snug Harbor near the entrance to Point Judith Pond, and took an Uber to the theater by the sea, and saw after dinner, after a lunch in the restaurant there, saw this theater. And then the Ubers were hard to get on the way home, and so I stuck out the thumb. And who picked us up? The mother of the waitress who had served us. And fortunately, we apparently gave the daughter a good tip, and she took us right back to the dock in Snug Harbor, and we dinghied back to our boat. I think I forgot to mention our food. Yeah, we like our own food. I'm going to pick that up now. Lean does most of the cooking. I make cameo appearances for special dishes and for dishwashing purposes. So on this trip, we had 2 of our lunches of these 33 days. 2 of our breakfasts we had ashore. Mostly we eat breakfast aboard. And of the lunches and dinners, so of the 33 days, there were 66 meals, and we had 22 of them, excuse me, on shore, and 2/3 of them on the boat. Covered that. So this is the Whale Rock, heading up into Narragansett Bay and heading for Dutch Harbor. And we passed it on what I'll call the wrong side. It's pretty wide there. There was no real danger. You know, you look at charts and I find charts are very scary. They scare you. The wider passage is on the east side of these rocks, but we went on the west side and had no problem at all getting up to Dutch Harbor, wrong way, which is a big collection of moorings that they rent to you on the far side of Jamestown Island from Newport. And we had lunch at a place called The Shack. And it was basically better quality food than, what's that Mexican place that has is so popular these days? Anyway, I'll remember it later. Except it's on a beach. Better food and better ambiance. Fast food Mexican on the beach. We also slept out and were there the night that there's only 2 nights a week that their pizza parlor was open, and we went and waited. Half the town was waiting with us. We waited about 45 minutes and got our pizzas and ate them. There's a supermarket. The island is narrow. You can walk across Jamestown Island to Connecticut Marina, which faces Newport on the other side, if you're restless. So that was that, Dutch Harbor. Then we're heading for Wickford, which was our next stop. And this is what we saw. In fact, we saw it from the right. We were headed right at it. It's not marked in any way. There's no lights, there's no buoys. And I hate to think what would have happened if I had crashed into these strings of, I think they're storing lobsters. Hard turn to port, and we avoided it. But if we had been at night, it would have been a scary situation there. This is the bridge from the mainland to Jamestown, and a little lighthouse can be seen between the pillars. It's an abandoned lighthouse, and then past that, and then turning left, you come to the town of Wickford. Wickford's a chitchy town, a lot of antique shops and restaurants, galleries. The yacht club was extremely friendly. Provided free ice, a map of the town so we could walk into town. We walked, we went among other places to the beach, where you can see there's more lifeguards than there are bathers. And they gave us a mooring right in the midst of a pod of these beautiful old wooden boats. The wooden boats reminded me of Rockport, Maine, which also is a wooden boat center. There were some ketches and some schooners, and this little, what's it called? Empaliska. And in the background, you can see Quonset Point Naval Air Station, or what's left of it, whatever it's being used for now, which I'll mention later. Here it is as we're passing it. You can see a buoy off to the extreme right on this slide. And this was one of the places that I wanted to go, but I didn't get to. I call this a miss. I didn't want to anchor there because I couldn't find anyone who said I could. And I dreaded I know there are planes landing from left to right on the strip on land, but when you look at the chart, well, this is not the chart, the screen chart, but the chart shows the same thing. There's a huge amount of, this is 1,000 feet it shows on the lower left. There's thousands of feet of water in the 10, 8 to 14 foot range. And it's protected from the prevailing southwesterlies, and it's a place you can go. Of course, there's no place to go ashore. There's no way to get ashore. You stay on your boat, but we don't mind that. We like that. We like each other. We like our pussycats. We have books to read. We have our own food. And we had several nights like that, and I would have stayed here, but I chickened out because no one had told me that we could go there. I think you see our track. No, maybe not. On the extreme right, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Forget that one for now. So here we are in East Greenwich Cove. The town and a string of marinas is on the background, and Goddard State Park is in the foreground. The town is not as chichi as Wickford, but it had a nice not a supermarket, but a health food store, which had a lot of fresh produce that was delicious. And music is loud on weekday nights in the clubs on the town side. We visited Goddard State Park. They have horse trails. We took a long hike there. We went to a farmer's market and scored some homemade, jams or whatever they sell in farmers markets. And we went again to the beach at the north end. So we passed this beach from right to left going in to East Greenwich and from left to right coming out. And you can see there's a boat anchored there. And we could have anchored there. There's another spot that would have been a perfectly good spot to anchor. Another spot that we didn't visit on this trip. There are also a couple of more places north of Greenwich on that far coast. Warwick Cove and Apponaug Cove. But I called there and they said, yeah, we can accommodate no moorings, no anchorage, but we can give you a dock. But there's nothing to do here. So if there's nothing to do here, I may as well stay on my own boat than spend money for a dock in your cove. Apparently the people come there, they drive there, and they get on their boats and do what they do with their boats, and then they come back and leave. So there's nothing to do there, so we skip those. I don't feel bad about skipping those two. Oh, wrong way. This was a highlight in East Greenwich, Jigger's Cafe. Been there for, my blog says how many years it's been, 40, 50, 60 years, family-owned business. It's one of those old-fashioned diners in a railroad car type setting, except most of those diners put the wide side on the street, frontage. This is the front entrance through the side of that, or I guess I call it the end of the car. It wasn't traditional diner food. It was more, a little bit better, a couple steps up, very friendly service, decent prices. A reason to go to East Greenwich. I would go there again. Wrong way. Now we're leaving. Now we've left East Greenwich and we're heading to East Providence. And what we see here is Ponham Rocks Light, one of the most beautiful little lighthouses at the side of a river where the river bends. And you can see how the wind was blowing us upstream because the flagpole is ripping. everyone said, why are you coming to Providence? Providence, we all try to get away from Providence. Well, we're city slickers here from New York, and we like the city. I've been in Providence by land, and it was just a kick to get up there. Problem is, we really couldn't find any place that we could stay in Providence, and we found a place in East Providence, which was a mistake for us to go there. They charge us a lot of money. Oh, here's the Providence skyline. When you get up to it, you turn sharply to the right to get to East Providence. This shows the route up, and then you turn at the top, the line turns to the right. East Providence is on the right side, Providence is on the left side. And I'll come to this bottom of this chart later. We come down the stream and then a J shape going up into this shallow water by Edgewood. We'll come to that later because that's the next stop after Providence. Here we are on the dock in Providence with the bridge. That's I-95, I-195, excuse me, passing in front of us. And you can see the ballards that guide boats through this underpass. There's a pretty strong current in there. It's easy to get trapped if you don't know what you're doing. And this place, in addition to charging us too much money for that 3 nights that we stayed there, didn't provide any dock hands to help us on. Our location, this is an aerial view, was the end of the central of the 3 docks that protrude up from the lower right. And you can see how easy it is to get caught under the bridge. No dock hands, no electric. I don't need electric. We make our own. No water, no showers, and the head is only open when the restaurant is open. So they gave us nothing and charged us a lot. And but from here we could take cabs or Ubers over the bridge and into Providence, and that's what we had come for, is to enjoy a little urban life after having been visiting the watery life for a while. On the left is Eileen next to a trophy cup that was given to Admiral Perry and displayed at the RISD Art Museum, beautiful museum, which we had the pleasure of visiting. And on the right is just a tiny fraction of what we saw at Bolivian National Day, where all the Bolivians from throughout the East Coast come here and parade in these exotic costumes. And then afterwards there was street food, which is delicious. Following that, we headed down toward the water, and this is, I don't know the name of it, but it's the Brazilian halfway between ballet and martial arts. And this group of young people were performing that. And this was a warm-up for the next event, which was called the Water Fire Sculpture Night. So you can see these little yellow things off to the left side, which are metal grates floating in the water that are loaded with wood. And coming down from the right were the people with torches who got into boats, and they lit up. Well, the plan was they were going to light up each of these, and there were, I think, 80 of them throughout obviously the bridges keep sailboats out of here, keep almost everything out of here. But all the restaurants were booked up to have a bang up business that night. It was a big event, and they have it approximately once a month. You know, we don't try to get to places where they're going to have the event. We just luck into a lot of them. We go and say, what's going on? And, oh, we're having a water fire night. Okay, we go. Well, what happened was this particular night, sadly, everyone was eagerly anticipating, waiting this thing. The heavens opened up. Everyone ran for cover. We did too. And we got back to our boat, got Uber, and dried off and spent the night at home instead of in a restaurant in town. This is the Edgewood Country Club, rebuilt partially by donations from Ted Turner and partially named after him. And this is a view from our mooring. I have another shot, which maybe I should have put in, where the sky was so black, where we see the sun here, and a storm was definitely coming and came, but fortunately it passed just north of us, so we were safe. The problem with this, let me go back a few slides the wrong way. Okay, this is shallow water here. The people at the yacht club said, just cut across from, don't go all the way down there and go all the way up. You can cut across. Well, we don't cut across. Well, chart says it's only 4 feet deep. We don't take a 5-foot boat in there. Sorry, sorry. But where they put on a mooring, the chart says it's 5 feet deep, and we drove 5'10", and we spent several tide cycles on that mooring and did not touch the bottom. So it was a very nice place. I'm going to go forward now. Let's see. Going the wrong way, wrong way, wrong way, wrong way. Oh, okay. One of the things we did, we walked down to Portugal Village, probably the 16 something. Nice little town, little shops. We went for tea. How often do we go to tea? They had a tea shop there. And we passed these. They had this similarly in other cities that we visited in Rhode Island, commemorating the last time perhaps that well, actually in the 50s they did it too, that our government spent big on a infrastructure project and built up the towns of, putting sidewalks anyway in the towns of Rhode Island. That's a repeat of another one. Okay, now we're on our way to Bristol. Bristol is one of the stops that I saw is a must stop. Bristol and Newport maybe are the two main parts that people, this is called Connimacut Point, right at Connimacut Point. And shortly after that, we'll get to Bristol. Here's a screenshot of Bristol. You can see our path in. There's a little pink line, and our boat is moored in the harbor. You can see where it is. To the left side a bit is the yacht club, but they had a fire and they were rebuilding. But the first time I was in this bay, there was maybe 100 moorings clustered around the yacht club. Now this bay is full of moorings, and we took one from the town dock, which is, the town is on the right-hand side. This is Papasquam Point on the left-hand side, which has a beach in the riverside. You can see in the lower left, you can see Potter's Cove, which is where we went next. But one of the things that happened, oh, and then sort of not blocking, but in the entrance to the harbor is Hog Island. And we had guests from home that came up. We invited them to stay on our boat, but they stayed in a hotel. But they had a car and they took us places, which was nice, including groceries. And we took them for a day sail out of the harbor, around the Hog Island, out here toward Potter's Cove in the extreme left. And we got mixed up, not mixed up in, but we got close to, oh, there's Eileen on her mooring in Bristol. This is us with our friends at the America's Cup section of the Herreshoff Museum, where they built so many, I think 8, not just America's Cup boats, but America's Cup winning boats. Here's that regatta. These are Herreshoff boats that are out there having fun. And we didn't get in their way, but we got close enough to them to feel like we were sailing with them, maybe, you know. That's us in a cockpit. This is hold on, a historic house. Let's call it a historic house. Colt, that's the word, Colt. Colt, following or setting an example for more recent leaders, hired a lot of artisans to build a beautiful place. It's now a museum, and then ran away and didn't pay his debts. Interesting artifacts in the museum. Okay, so we went to the Herreshoff Museum, to that Colt Museum, to several good restaurants. And then the last day when our guests left, we rented bikes, and they were electric bikes, which I'd never done before, and rode up the old roadbed of the Providence Bristol Railroad, which goes almost up to East Providence. We went almost up to East Providence. The electric part of the bike makes it easy. You can pedal on the downhill and use the battery on the uphill. Not that there are a lot of hills. And we stopped in, we went past towns of Warren and Barrington, which are other places that have boats, but not, we didn't go in there. No time, really. Run out of time. But this is not a painting. It's the picture window behind the bar. And it's kind of pretty at the Wharf Tavern in Warren. So then we came to Potter's Cove. I've been to Potter's Cove before on a club, went there on our club cruises. I never realized how big it is. Look how much room there is in there. Not all of that is suitable for anchorage. Some of it's too shallow. But Eileen is in the background area, and our dinghy, named Roger, is tied up to the dock. The distances are so small that having come from Bristol, we were able to spend the afternoon there. And this was an afternoon when Eileen decided that she would take some alone time with the kiddies. And so I was the one who took the walk on Prudence Island. There's a sign on the dock, "Don't tie up more than 15 minutes." Well, I think that's for days when it's more crowded in there. But in any event, Eileen took the dinghy back to the boat, and I went for the walk. And we came to this part of the island, which is sort of halfway along the island, where it's a very marshy, low area. And in the background here, you see Quonset Point again. And if you look the other way, you see Aquidneck Island. And if you look north, you see the skyline of Providence. I never realized how centrally located Prudence Island really was. That is in the center of the bay. I mean, it's obviously in the center when you look on the chart, but it's until, for me, that never struck me until I actually was on there on these walks. So the people there are, how do you say this, insular. So this is their license. This is a license plate of one of the cars that I passed. For people who were very friendly to talk with me. They love their island. They've been there for generations, coming to the same spot. And after we left, we crossed under, this is the Mount Hope Bridge from mainland to Aquidneck, to the northern point of Aquidneck Island, which we passed under on our way to the Kikamuit River. I never heard of. Now, I put the dime there on the chart, so you'll see how tight that entrance is. And the cruising guide says that there's currents up to 3 knots running through there. You want me to go through there? But we did. And actually, when you, charts are scary. They always make it seem small, but with an electronic chart plotter, you can blow it up a little bit, and you can see that it's, that's our track on the way in and out, past the reds and the greens. But don't think that there's unlimited room, because that man is standing in the water, and if we 30 feet closer to him, we'd be on the sandbank. So it is a tight spot, but you can get in. And once in, there's plenty of room. Not all of the pond, I guess it's a basin of the river, the Kikamuit River that flows through it, is suitable for anchoring, but a lot of it is. But the one thing about this spot is that there is no commercial activity of any kind whatsoever, and no public landing. So if you want to go ashore to walk around, it's maybe 1.5 miles back to Bristol if you wanted to go that way. You have to know someone or get permission to put your dinghy on their dock. We did not. We made a tour with our dinghy around, and then went back to the boat. Next stop. Oh, okay. I think next time we go, I'm going to try to find a friend who has a place on Kikamuit Basin and stretch our legs. I like to go ashore when I come to a place that I've never been, to kind of put my foot on the ground and make it mine in that sense. So here, this is in Battleship Cove, Fall River, Mass. Now I recognize Fall River, Mass. It's not Rhode Island, but because you guys are from Boston, I figured you wouldn't be offended. And the fact of the matter is, the only way to get to Fall River, Mass by water is through the state of Rhode Island. Both Eileens, the boat and the lady, under some guns. And here's another view. This is from land looking the other way at Eileen. And you can see the lady is in the dinghy behind the sailboat, and the battleship is big in the foreground. Now, this battleship is we toured it. We spent 2 days touring this and this next thing, which is the museum, the Maritime Museum. It's a separate admission, but they're not expensive. Neither of them are expensive. The museum was kind of nice. They had an exhibit on the Titanic, and they had one on how the Azores helped us and Portugal helped us during World War II. And they had an interesting large exhibit about the former Fall River to New York steamship line. Apparently, the travel to Boston was by rail from Fall River to Boston, and by steamship, paddle wheeler, side wheelers to New York until there's a picture of one in this right under the anchor and under the sign. When one of them sank, the business failed. The battleship. I visited a destroyer escort that's in Albany, New York, the Slater, USS Slater. It was sold to the Greeks, and they sold it back to us. And there's a group of volunteers there who spend money and time lovingly recreating this boat, bringing it into as close to original condition as you can get a boat that was built before World War II. And the Massachusetts, that could be done if we had people who wanted to devote the time, money, and effort to doing so. It's full of museum space, but it's not really a well-done exhibit. They don't take you around, they let you walk around. The signage is not very good. On the Slater, for example, we had a guide who answered all questions and spent an hour with us touring the boat with us. An opportunity that could be developed. Next, Tiverton. The river it's in the Saguenay River. The river is deep and wide, and this is a much bigger boat that's on a mooring near us. And what made it for us in Tiverton was the marina at Standish Boatyard, operated by this gentleman. Groceries, take my car. We went to the supermarket up in Fall River. It's very near. And the next day, we also took a walk. I'll show you soon. The next day, he said, take my car. We went to Tiverton Four Corners, which is about 10 miles down the coast from this marina, where there's a large collection of galleries, artists. It's an art center. And if you go for that stuff, it's a nice collection. They all cluster together, and you can visit many of them. We also visited the Sin and Flesh Brook Natural Area, which this is a walk. We didn't need a car for that, up the hill. And it's a contraction of, there was a massacre of Native Americans back in a long time ago. It's a nice park, pretty natural in there, woods, and you're high, so this is a look. To the right is Fall River, to the left is Bristol. And you're high enough to be able to see. My ugly mug is in the way, but that's all right. And then from there, then we spent 2 nights. I don't have pictures. Someone told us about Fogland Cove. Fogland is a little peninsula sticking out from the east side of the Saguenay River, and you can anchor behind there. And we could have taken a dink ashore. We could have, maybe there's ice cream ashore. There's a park, probably maybe barbecues. I don't know what they had. We didn't go. We stayed on our boat. And similarly, the next night, we stayed at Third Beach, which is on Aquidneck Island, our first touching of Aquidneck Island, the home of Newport. Again, we could have gone ashore. There's a park there, a lot of boats, and nice anchorage, protected adequately on the day we were there. And then into Newport, where there are a lot of boats, beautiful mansions to the right, and one of which is to the right. some boats that some people consider beautiful, but I consider taking up too much dock space. And we've been to Newport many times. Been to the breakers and the cliff walk and other houses along the cliff walk, to the Tennis Hall of Fame, supermarkets, the library. We know the places, but this was a place we've been past often. This is a wonderful art gallery selling museum quality works and a free admission, of course. And I spent a happy hour in there looking at the art, talking with the owner about some of the pieces, way over our price range, but interesting views of things that I recognized. And while we were there, we also went to the Museum of Fine Arts, the Truro Cemetery, which is not adjacent. Oh, what happened here? Oops. Oh, I lost some slides. Anyway, the Truro Cemetery is next to the, not next to, but close to the Truro Synagogue. There was a bookshop there, and then we went north of town on the main drag, the Thames Street. I think they call it Thames, not Thames, Thames Street, to a restaurant that a friend had recommended, which was very good, called the Salvation Cafe. And we had a couple of nice days in Newport. Following that, we went to Block Island. That was part of the plan, and I should have stitched it. Hurricane Dorian was coming through, and we would have been much better if we had not gone there. This is the view the night before the storm. This is the Block Island Boat Basin. People who've been there are very familiar with it, except it never looks like this because every one of these slips is filled with boats during the season. But this was after Labor Day and the night before hurricane, and it's virtually empty. We got there, the harbor master said, "Why did you come here? Don't you know there's a hurricane?" So I'm stupid, so we stayed. We normally go for these chartreuse moorings that are close to this Block Island Boat Basin, the town moorings. They're hard to get in the summer. No boats on them. He said, "Well, yeah, you can go there, but this orange one that's a little bit further out, one of those boats that's out there is us. I can't tell which. They're stronger, so let me put you on there." So we did what we could to prepare for the storm. This is a Rockna anchor, which instead of hanging under the boat and possibly getting snarled on the mooring lines, I brought it up onto the deck, tied it down every which way, and hope for the best. A rocky night. I was thinking about, starting the engine if the strain got too great, but it didn't happen. We got through it. And the next day we saw, this is after the storm had passed, and this is in the harbor, there was waves. This is a little boat not far from us, bouncing around like crazy. And finally, calm again the next day, and out we go past the Coast Guard station in the inlet into the Great Salt Pond and heading for home. So that concludes my remarks. One interesting thing was we had no insects that day. It was kind of amazing. Our boat is screened. We can keep the bugs out unless they sneak in when we open the door, but there were none. I don't know where they went in 2019. Usually there's bugs wherever you go. I also have 24 posts to my blog, eileentheboat.blogspot.com, which go into much more detail. I've already probably bored you with too much detail already, but if you want even more, go to eileentheboat.blogspot.com for August and early September of 2019. Now I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may want to ask. I hope you do want to ask.
Take yourself off mute and feel free to ask some questions.
And I was in New London during Gloria, and boy, we had 105-mile-an-hour winds. What did you get in Block Island?
You're on mute.
You put yourself back on mute, Roger.
You're on mute.
This was Dorian, not Gloria.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was only about 70, I think, was the
Only.
maximum. Yeah. but everything held. But, there's no ocean waves because the boat basin is completely protected from the ocean, but there was enough fetch in there to get some waves in there and a lot of wind. And it was stupid for me to go there. I should abandon plans when it's unsafe. And actually, the Commodore, who was with me, and the cats didn't like it that much either. And we were going to go one more place. And she said, no, I had enough. Let's go home. But if I only lose one day through my stupidity, I guess I should consider myself lucky.
So on your way back to and from, where did you stop? I trust you went down Long Island Sound.
Yeah, various spots. Not really sure I remember which ones they were. It's in the blog where we stopped at each place. We actually we went. That was the one extra day. We went back to Stonington, Connecticut, which is really adjacent to Watch Hill. And the plan had been to go up that river to the town of, I think it's Warwick. There's a river there. We couldn't go by boat. I called all the marinas. No, not a boat like your size. No. But at the mouth of the river on the port side, when you're going up, there's a place that looks like it's a good anchorage. And I asked them about that. And they said, yeah, you could anchor there. It's a safe place. And then I was going to take the dinghy up. And at the head of the navigation, there's a restaurant with a dinghy dock. And this was after Labor Day. And he said, yeah, come on for lunch. And I said, then can I stay a few hours and walk around the town to explore? Oh, yeah, sure. But the Commodore said, no, I had enough. And I'm not blaming her. She had a rough night in Block Island. And so we headed for home. I don't remember which spots we went to, but it's in the blog. And I think even in the article in Points East.
Roger, this is Grant. We live in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And we keep our boat in East Greenwich Harbor. And we've done all those passages, except that many of those passages. Well, we have not been to Kickamuit. But we were members of Edgewood Yacht Club. At one time, we were members of Rhode Island Yacht Club. We were members of Tiverton Yacht Club before it burnt down. We're members of, my wife is the Commodore of West Bay Yacht Club, and I'm the Vice Commodore. So we really enjoyed your presentation. It was terrific. It's interesting. We have a CNC 41, which draws 8 feet.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of our cruising on our 32-footer that drew 510, similar to your boat.
Right.
And when you could get into some of those places with 510, you cannot get into some of those places with 8 feet. And if you do, you either go in at high tide and you got to go out at high tide because there is no water, no matter, you talk about Edgewood. We can't get into Edgewood. I mean, they told us, don't even think about it. Just leave it, leave it in Newport. I mean, leave it in East Greenwich, whatever. Come up by dinghy. And I don't think we can get into Kickamuit. I think it's too shallow. But I wanted to comment that Kickamuit is it's similar to Point Judith Harbor of Refuge. When there's a hurricane or a major storm, a lot of the boats that are in Edgewood or Rhode Island Yacht Club, Narragansett Yacht Club, even Barrington, whatever, Bristol, they'll go into the Kickamuit and they'll drop anchor, and it's like a protected area.
Oh.
So I didn't know.
No waves can get in there. The only waves that you're going to have are the ones that are already in there.
Right. That place fills up pretty quickly when you have some major weather that's affecting the bay. And I didn't know if you knew that.
So it's described as a hurricane hole, and I can see why.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
suitable for that.
Yep. And but as you were going through your presentation, we've done all of those trips. I actually got a kick out of you coming up the narrow river. When you were going into Westerly. Watch Hill, excuse me.
Westerly.
And I remember going aground on my 510, 32-foot alarm, coming in, and I didn't realize that it's so narrow. You don't have, I mean, you look to the left, you look to the right, you don't have a lot of room to maneuver there at all. Once you get out of that, then you're okay.
Right.
But navigating that that narrow river, you know, from like Stonington over to Watch Hill
No.
is it's pretty tricky for sailboats who obviously if you draw less than 510, it's a little bit easier. But when I went to,
But it's a beautiful area.
oh yeah, it's
is.
terrific. And people were fishing right next to us as we were going by them.
Right.
It's like in blocks. Sometimes when at low tide you go into the Great Salt Pond and they're right next to you. I mean, they're literally right next to you because it's so narrow, you know, at low tide. So anyway,
By the way,
your
Grant,
immensely.
the charts say you can get into Kickamuit. You should try it. It's gorgeous in there.
You know, Craig, I haven't tried it yet because I'm scared to death. But maybe we'll become brave one of these days. We'll have to do it at high tide though. I think we have.
Well, the charts say,
A rising tide.
yeah, rising
Right,
tide.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I just looked at the charts and they do say you have over 8 feet.
Oh, that's good.
But it's absolutely beautiful in there and it's a perfect hurricane hole.
Yeah, it is. It is. I
I
remember when we were members of Rhode Island Yacht Club. That's where everybody would escape to, and so I just wanted to bring that out in
That's
case.
great. I understand that the person who addressed you the last time you had an address was a designer of my boat,
Oh,
the famous yacht designer.
Are
who
you,
was that?
are you
Yeah.
speaking to me?
No,
Roger?
anyone.
Robert Perry.
Robert Perry was the designer of the Saga.
Oh,
So
Cool.
I'm not
There you
famous like him. I'm just a guy who lucky enough to have a boat and a wife who's willing to sail with him.
I heard that the Kickamuit, it doesn't that abut the Audubon Sanctuary stuff. So I've taken a dinghy ashore and walked around there.
Okay.
Oh,
So Michelle, how much do you draw?
Oh, I have a centerboard, so
Oh,
I draw
okay.
like 410.
Okay, so that's a little bit easier, a little bit.
Yeah.
Do any of you know Hugh Madison? He's a
Of
friend of
course.
mine.
Yeah.
He's a member of your club. That's the first time I had ever heard of your club.
yes.
He was my replacement on the USS Hammerberg as the ASW officer.
Oh, wow.
I've reestablished, that was in 1967, and we've reestablished communications, and hopefully I'll see him in Boston this summer, especially if we're not able to go to Canada. If we're going to Canada, we'll be rushing past New England to get there because we have a long way to go. But if the border remains closed, I'm
Right.
hoping to visit Boston again.
Roger,
You
pay
would-
attention because right now Canada's having they're having quite a bit of a situation there.
Yeah.
So please pay attention. Yeah.
Okay.
Hugh was on my boat last week. Roger.
Oh, good. Excellent.
It might be helpful for people to, I don't know how much everybody knows about Newport, but one of the things that is really worth seeing is the International Yacht Restoration School,
Right.
and they run courses. Sunday, the Shenandoah is in the Mystic, the Henry DuPont shipyard. And there, obviously, most people have heard that they were well known for refurbishing the whale ship, the Morgan. Then they did the Mayflower. Shenandoah is there now. Not sure exactly how long they're going to be there. They're also getting a new set of sails for the Shenandoah. And between that and the Yacht Restoration School in Newport, there's a lot of good stuff to see. And the Herreshoff Museum in Bristol is really terrific. And for some people don't know it, but Pearson, most of their boats, not
Right.
all of them, but a lot of them were built in those buildings that are now the Herreshoff Museum.
You're right. And also I forgot to mention, I don't know how I forgot that Fort Adams in Newport gives a very good tour.
Museum of
And
Yachting.
there's that house that the Kennedys got married in, the Twin
Right.
Tour. There's a lot, it's a real tourist attraction and a lot of things to do there. A lot of things to do there.
The other thing worth mentioning for people who don't know the area that well, I don't know how much people know, but the boat basin up at Melville is sort of a marine mall that has all different types of shops. You know, they refurbish life rafts, and
Right,
marine
right.
electronic. I mean, it's a place to go
For work.
for a lot of stuff.
for
And a
work.
lot of the folks from Massachusetts have work done on their boats in Rhode Island because the prices are a little bit more reasonable.
Well, I have
Well,
to stop.
well, Sandy, I hate to tell you this, but people in Rhode Island are better people than people in Massachusetts. Okay? I just want to just put that out.
I have to stop in Newport because my water maker needs a little bit of work on it. So on our way to New England, we're going to stop there and stop with Headsink
Absolutely.
and get them. to
Oh,
do it.
also for people who may or may not know the area that well, there's a lot of good marine consignment stores in the area. There's one in Newport near the High Lie. There's one in Fall River right near that museum where you were at.
Yep.
And there's
Fellowship
also an
Cove.
excellent one in Mystic.
And there's one in Wickford. There's a consignment shop in Wickford, North Kingstown.
But you have to get a car to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't walk there from the marina,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
so
Well,
it's interesting.
Uber goes everywhere nowadays.
That's true. That's true. Roger, just a quick mention. In the summertime, we keep our boat at Prime Marina in East Greenwich. It used to be called Norton's, and then they sold it a couple years back. And then in the winter, we keep our boat in the water at Wickford Marina.
Wow.
Now is Safe Harbor, along with every other friggin' marina that Safe Harbor has bought. Constant, I can see you're smiling at that. The truth of the matter is they've bought practically every available marina on Narragansett Bay. I don't know what it's like in Connecticut or New York or other places or Boston, but Safe Harbor is, I think they've got over 80 or 100 marinas now under their belt.
So what do you have, a bubbler under your boat in the winter?
No. It turns out that, the winters have gotten milder. And if it requires that the marina will provide it, and at a cost, or you can provide your own. You have that
there's
choice.
also a significant current through there.
Right.
Okay, yeah,
where the
that
boat is.
helps.
Now, did you go to the Wickford Yacht Club when you were in Wickford?
I
you
think
mention that?
if I look at it was a yacht club.
Yeah, there's only one yacht club. That's
That's where we were.
Wickford Marina is just west, just the next west slips
Further in, the next one is,
west of Wickford Yacht Club.
okay.
So you
And
know,
you're right, they're very friendly, wonderful people there.
Okay.
terrific people.
Yeah.
Terrific. They've been around for 100 years. Great people. I have lots of friends there, and we all do so. So we share our time between Wickford and East Greenwich. Where yeah.
Okay, we rarely, once we get into cruising mode, people say, well, where are you going in Maine? Well, we're not going to any particular place. We're going to if we stay 3 days in a place, it's a lot.
Right.
And then we
By the way,
move on.
we're mooring people. The only reason I'm on a slip is because in the winter I can't be on a mooring.
Right, right.
And I just plug in. So, but I'm on a mooring for 6 months out of the year.
Our club has only moorings, and so
Right.
at home we're on a mooring.
Right.
So how many people were in this session, do you think, approximately, when I was talking? What do you
I think we had up to 42 at one point.
42, okay, all right. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and a lot of chats saying how much they enjoyed the presentation. Some
we
people
had some
already had to
chat.
leave,
Okay,
but
all right, okay,
yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad.
thank you.
So I never did a PowerPoint before. I'm a retired attorney, so I do know how to talk, but I never did that PowerPoint and Zoom, and so there's a lot of things for me to learn. And Chris was so helpful in getting
good.
the technical. I'm a better sailor than I am a computer operator. Let me put it that way.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
You bet.
Good night.
Good night.
Nice
Thank
to
you,
meet
Roger. Enjoy. Be safe, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
You
Roger.
too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.